November, week 4, geometry, first, second, and third grade, and we're learning about area. A long time ago, there was an ancient land. This land had a ruler. The ruler wanted to make the land better for the people. He had guards to keep him safe in his palace while he used the people's tax money to build bridges and roads so that people could sell the stuff they grew in their fields better. Because without bridges and roads, they couldn't get their crops to the market. He knew how to be a good leader, and his bodyguards knew how to protect him. Thank you. He had 2 very smart camels. And we need the camel herder, not the old man yet, the camel herder, which is me. He had 2 very smart camels, too. 1, 2, and you're the camel herder. And they knew how to carry stuff. But none of them knew math. So the king found an old man and his assistant, and they knew math. The old man knew how to get the right amount of money from each person in the kingdom because he knew how to measure area. But he needed lots of ropes, so he needed the camels to help carry the ropes. And he needed his trusty assistant. Look at the camera. He needed his trusty assistant to help with the work. Quat was a poor farmer. He had a very small field. He didn't have much money. Go ahead and shake that. The old man and his apprentice measured the field. First, they laid ropes across his field one way. So these shorter ropes and you're going to try and do it every foot. So you're going to maybe put one here. Okay, go ahead and stretch that one across, Gage. Can you find the other end of it? And put it straight across. Good. Pull it. Oh, good. That's about a foot. Now do the next one. Bring it around here. Chuck it over there to your assistant. And that's going to go right about here. And then do it again. They are measuring every foot. Putting ropes across. Okay. First, they laid ropes across the field on the shorter part. You can see why the old man had to have an assistant, right? Things can get in knots, and it just takes 2 people to lay the ropes correctly, doesn't it? Gage, bring yours a tiny bit over. Good. And now one more, it looks like, right? Then they laid the longer ropes the other way to make squares. So the assistant and the old man, the assistant, you're going to be over here, and he's going to toss you a rope, and you're going to do the same thing. You see the little red marks? That's where that rope's going to kind of go. All right? Try it. Oh, sorry. So see how Gage, he's going to kind of pump it, and you're going to match. Good. See how that makes squares, right? Do it again. You can see that this was a lot of work. To visit every field in the kingdom, the camels had to carry a lot more rope than that. This is just for Quat's little field. So, sometimes you'd have to have 100 ropes on each camel. So the camels got hot and tired. The camel owner had to feed them every day and take care of them and find them water. Keep laying the ropes. The old man and his apprentice would get extremely tired. But it was important to the ruler not to charge too much money, because Quat, having the smallest field, if you charged him the same amount as somebody with the biggest field, how would Quat feel? He wouldn't be able to do it.
He'd be flying.
And what happens when you don't charge a fair amount is the people aren't happy anymore. They're only happy if everybody pays a fair amount. And then they might rise up against the ruler and say, we're going to have a new ruler, right? And start a revolution. And meanwhile, the ruler, all he's trying to do is build roads and bridges for everybody. So you want to make sure that people get charged the correct amount of money. Here goes the last row. It was so much work. Then the old man counted the squares. It was hot. He wanted his apprentice to help. So, old man, count. Let's pretend you're like going 1, 2, go to every square, okay? The apprentice just stood there at the edge and didn't do anything while the old man walked all around the field, counting every single square. And the old man counted how many squares?
35.
35. But the apprentice was just staring at the squares. The old man said his apprentice was lazy.
You're lazy. You're lazy.
But the apprentice said, all you have to do is count groups of 5.
All you have to do is count groups of 5.
There are 7 groups of 5. So they counted by 5.
35.
And it went way quicker. And the old man was amazed at how smart that little apprentice was. So then the apprentice said, all you really need to know is the length, 7, and the width, 5, and then you skip count your 5s because there's groups of 5. So all you really have to know is length and width.
All you really have to know is length and width. Actually, that's it.
So, in order to know the length and the width, you would only need 1 rope along the length and 1 rope along the width. So from that day on, the camels only had to carry 2 ropes. So one camel retired. Which one of you wants to retire? You do? All right. Off you go. You get to just go eat grass. And the other one only had to carry 2 ropes from then on. He was much happier. 1 for the length and 1 for the width.
No, I knew.
Help the ruler back. Help the ruler back into his throne. No, you can't pause. Now, after they measured 35 square feet, the old man told Quat that the only amount he had to pay was 1 small gold coin. Take it out and give it to the old man. Now, does the old man keep the coin?
No.
No. The old man looks after the coin and it ends up going to the ruler. That's how the ruler pays for all the roads and bridges. But Quat's tax was fair because he had the smallest field. Obviously, somebody with a way bigger field would pay a lot more tax. Go ahead and sit down in your field, Quat. Questions? Could they have counted? Turn around and face the camera. Good job. Everybody sit. Could they have counted by 7s?
Yes. No.
Yes. They could, right, Gus?
Yeah.
They decided to do 5s because 5s we all know. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. But they could have gone 7 because there's a group of 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Okay, they could have done it by 7s. Question 2. Did the apprentice's idea help or hurt the camels?
Help.
Why?
Because more camels.
Jillian.
Because now they only have to carry
2 ropes. Instead of, before that, they had to carry so many ropes, right?
200.
Question 3. Did the apprentice's idea save time?
Yes.
Tons of time, right? If you only have to put 2 ropes, even for a huge field, of course, the ropes would be longer, wouldn't they? But if you only have to put 2 ropes instead of hundreds of ropes, you're going to save so much time. Saving time saves something else.
Money.
Money. I mean, maybe they could measure 20 fields a day now, Whereas before, maybe they could only measure 1 or 2, right? So if they can measure 20 fields a day, they can get done in a couple months, whereas maybe before it would take a whole year. And that means that the king, the ruler, please be careful with that throne, doesn't have to be paying the old man for a whole year, and doesn't have to pay the apprentice, and doesn't have to pay the camels. He's going to save money, which can go to making maybe a hospital or a school. Can you stop me with that? Number question 5. Who needed to know area back then, and why? Lay. Quat? Does Quat need to know area? Not if there's an old man, tell him. Gage, who needed to know area? And why? The king. And why, Gage?
Because he's the ruler, he has to know it.
Yes. If he doesn't know it,
He can't build roads.
he can't get the right amount of money, and his citizens will rise up against him and get another ruler. They'll get a new one. They might decide Silas would be better, or older, or you. They might say, hey, he's smart. So the king has to know area, but he doesn't know math, so he relies on the old man as his apprentice. Last question. Who needs to know area now, and why? Grayson?
Us.
We do what?
So we can build stuff.
So we can build stuff. Okay, so kids can learn about areas so they can build stuff. Good. Anybody else? Mila?
Builders.
All builders have to know area, right? You can't, because to order the stuff you need, you've got to know how much. So all builders. Gage?
People who just order stuff.
Anybody that's ordering stuff. So if you're in a hardware company and you're ordering roofing supplies, right? You have to know roughly how much customers are going to need each month. Good. So area. Miss Becky?
If I want to repaint my room, I have to know how much paint to buy. And to do that, I have to solve the area.
And the area that Becky would be solving would not be a field, would it? You don't paint fields. What would she need the area of? The walls. All the walls. Good. What about a farmer? Does farmers still need to know area?
Yes.
JD.
Because they need to measure their fields.
So for planting,
Yeah.
if they order too much seeds, right, then they're wasting money. Seeds are expensive. But if they order too little seeds, they can only plant half the field and then the rest is weeds. Also, farmers have to know area for how much water to put on the fields, right? So lots of different people have to know area. What about if you're a designer?
Yes.
Okay, what if you work for Hollywood, for like Disney,
Yes.
and you're designing a set for a Disney movie?
Yes.
You would definitely have to know area, wouldn't you? So, what is area? Let's all say it. Area is length times
Width.
length times width. And that's the end of our play. Let's give all the people who were in the play a big clap.